Hello friend, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to give you a few of my best tips for hand lettering using these Amazon Basics brush pens. Now, a little while back, I did a video on these brush pens. I purchased them on Amazon because they were super inexpensive. I honestly didn't have high hopes for them, but they really did exceed my expectations. So I shared them with you, and today I wanted to share, for those of you who have purchased these or maybe you're thinking about purchasing them, I wanted to share with you some tips for using these. So the tips of these are a little bit longer and a little bit more pointy than some other brush pens. They look similar to a Tombow, but I don't think they're an exact dupe at all. But I do think that they can be a great option if you're looking for an inexpensive brush pen. So I hope that if you've purchased them or if you are planning to, that these tips will help you get the most out of your Amazon Basics brush pens. However, even if you're using a different brush pen, I hope that these tips are still helpful for you. So let's get right into my tips for hand lettering using your Amazon Basics brush pens. So tip number one is to draw with your pen at an angle. So if you have your pen at an angle, you're going to be able to more slowly transition into that stroke and make that look a little bit more natural. And this definitely will take practice, but by making sure you're not holding your pen upright like this, you can have a nice smooth transition versus when I'm holding it more upright and I'm getting pointy and then I'm just pushing, it is just flopping over, and you can almost see where, right here, where my pen turns into that thick stroke right here. It just kind of pushes straight from thin to thick. And so if you hold your pen at the side, you're going to be able to hopefully more smoothly transition from that thin to thick stroke. Now, if it makes it more comfortable for you, you can also angle your letters. Like, for example, this oval is more upright, but when I do more of a slanted oval, I'm able to get a little bit cleaner of a transition there, and that might be a little bit more comfortable for you as well, especially if you're a beginner. So my next tip for using these Amazon Basics brush pens is to use a smooth paper. This piece of paper is from a Rhodia journal. It is very smooth. I also like HP premium paper, but as you can see, this brush pen looks like it might be on the more delicate side. And I've used this color, I believe, a lot. So this might be one of my more used ones in my pack of brush pens, but I would anticipate this brush pen pack fraying similarly to how my Tombows would fray. This brush pen pack was incredibly inexpensive, so I'm not complaining. Brush pens they do fray. But I like to use a smooth paper, and I think that can help them to hopefully last a little bit longer and allow for some nice smooth hand lettering. My next tip with using these Amazon Basics brush pens for hand lettering is to be a little bit more gentle with them and maybe use a lighter pressure if you are somebody who, like myself, sometimes has a very heavy hand with brush lettering. So one of the things about these brush pens that I think is really unique is the fact that they have very, very thin upstrokes. So if you're hand lettering and you are using a very thin upstroke, you don't necessarily need to have the very thickest downstroke that the pen can possibly make. So while we might have a brush pen that has a really, really thick downstroke, we might also be able to create a really nice brush lettering without pushing so hard. So because this tip is so pointy, I would probably try to stay somewhere in this range here. Now, as you can see at the top, some of my lettering does have quite a bit thicker of downstrokes, but like I said, I just have a pretty heavy hand, so that is just something that I have to get used to as well. But I think that this hand lettering with more of a in-between, not super thin on the downstroke, but also not as thick as it possibly can go, can maybe help a little bit with those transitions, so you're not trying to go from so thick to so thin. Instead, we can do more of an in-between like this, where we maybe aren't going to struggle so much with that section of our strokes. So I would recommend, if you have a really heavy hand, just try to ease up on your pressure a little bit on those downstrokes and see how it feels, and see if maybe that helps with those transitional parts of your stroke. My next tip for hand lettering using these Amazon Basics brush pens is blending. So I am going to switch papers here, and I am going to use a Bristol paper. So I have this Strathmore Bristol paper, and this is a paper that's very smooth, but it's thick. So this whole pack came with only 20 sheets in it. It's not something I would use just for everyday practice, and it's also something that I would tend to cut down. So this is a 9x12, and I would maybe cut these into 4 pieces so that I could get a little bit more use out of one page. But for today, I'm just going to show you, I'm going to use this as an example, but it's a little bit thicker, so I think that these can be really good types of paper for blending. So I'm going to show you some blending using some more colors here on this paper. All right, so the first method that I'm going to use for blending is using a ceramic dish like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay down our darker color with our brush pen, and then we're going to pick it up with our second brush pen. So to do this, I'm going to use 2 different colors. So I'm going to start with this lighter pink and this darker shade of purple. I'm just going to color right on here. And then I'm going to take the second color here and just pick it up with my brush pen. So as you can see, we started dark over here and then got lighter to where we are ending. I don't think this is probably quite the exact pink. I think that we probably still have a little of the purple in there. So as you can see, I put a lot of the darker color onto my lighter brush pen. So we got that purple for almost the entire thing. If you would like, when you're done blending, you can just color off that color. But if you want to just put a little bit on, you can just do a little dab, and then you might have to keep picking up some more color every couple of letters or even every other letter. But these seem to hold on to that color quite well if you would like to do some blending with your Amazon Basics brush pens. So those are 2 ways to do some blending, and I'm going to show you a third way here, and that is where you draw your letter onto the paper and then blend in with another color right onto the paper. Now the trick is with this method is you do not want to add too much color to the top, or it will totally come down and fill up your whole letter. So I would recommend just doing the tiniest bit and starting there. Now I just used my original color to blend it down. I have a feeling I probably could use a Tombow blender pen to blend this in, but since I am just doing the Amazon Basics brush pens, we are just going to use what I have for this video. But I wanted to show you another really simple way to blend this, and that is with water and a paintbrush. So I'm using a very small size Winsor & Newton paintbrush, and I'm just going to bring that down a little bit. And this is another way that you can use these pens to create a beautiful, kind of like a watercolor look. This isn't going to look just like watercolor because I'm not using watercolor paper, but because the Bristol paper is a little bit thicker, I am able to add a little bit of water to it without ruining the paper. So with just adding a little bit of water here, we have a completely different look for our lettering using these Amazon Basics brush pens. And if you did purchase this bigger pack, there's a lot of different color combination options here. One thing I wanted to show you is some swatches, because some of you asked me about colors, and I will say they do not have the colors right on the brush pens. So I can't tell you which specific colors I'm using, but I will go ahead and give you swatches of the entire thing so that you can kind of see an example of what colors come with this pack that I purchased, and hopefully that will be helpful if you're comparing to some of the other packs that they sell. And I will get to those swatches right after this next tip, which is to use a lined paper. Now, if you don't already have lined paper, I have free printables in the resource library on my website, so you can find those at howtohandletter.com/resource library, and you can just download those and print those out for free. But I think that lettering on lined paper can be really helpful when you are learning with a new brush pen, especially one that's a little bit bigger, because it can be easy to start lettering and then all of a sudden that goes way up at a slant or down at a slant. I totally have that problem as well. So I personally like to use lined paper. So like I said, I will leave a link in the description box for you so that you can download free printables if you are needing some, or you can find those at howtohandletter.com/resource library. I also have some downloads in the resource library that might be helpful for you. One of them is a printable for mastering your ovals, and that one has multiple different shapes of ovals that you can practice, because your ovals are kind of the base for a lot of our letters. So by changing up your oval, you can really change the look of your hand lettering. And then another printable that you might enjoy is the simple strokes and variations. These are your simple strokes broken down for you to practice. And again, there are a few variations of each because when you change the slant or the curve on a simple stroke, it can completely change the look of your letter. So these are two ways to kind of get a feel for your own hand lettering style and practice those thick and thin strokes as well. And both of these worksheets are sized really well for the Amazon Basics brush pens. So again, they're totally free. They're just in my resource library. All right, so now I'm going to get into the swatches where I'm going to show you all the different colors of these brush pens. I hope this is super helpful for you if you are looking to purchase these yourself. If you are not sure about them, I have a complete review on these Amazon Basics brush pens that I will link at the end of this video. But overall, I have really enjoyed them. They're super affordable, and I would recommend them if you're looking for something affordable to practice with. So I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget, if you would like to print off your own free printables, you can find those at howtohandletter.com/resource library. Or if you would like to see my Amazon Basics brush pen review, you can find that linked here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.